Collision last week did, as we talked about, did lower ratings than obviously the debut week. We had mentioned when we talked about the debut episode, okay, it started at, I think the average was 800,000. Let's see where it's going to go. It's obviously going to go down because generally the debut is the big deal. But how far and what will the ratings pattern be? So this is a week old. But before we talk about Collision on July 1st, what was last week's ratings? And the thing I'm interested in is, did they keep a bigger percentage of the audience they started with than Wednesday night does? Because I think we established Wednesday night lost a little over 25% of their starting audience this past week.
Well, these are the ratings for AEW Collision, June 24th, 2023 on TNT, compiled by WrestleNomics. The overall number, on average, 595,000 viewers.
Yeah, so down a little bit over 200,000. Where, instead of going through this in granular detail, it is a week old. Where'd they start? What was the top of the 9 o'clock hour, and where'd they finish?
They started 8 o'clock, 8 to 8:15 p.m. with the opening promos from everyone, and then going from that into the Chris Jericho, Minoru Suzuki, Naito segment, and then Miro's promo. 605,000 viewers. 605.
605. Trademark.
Damn right it is.
So where were they at the top of 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock hour, which was a video for the Owen Hart tournament video. Well, a video for the video. An Owen Hart tournament video
and several people.
As well as Nyla Rose versus Willow Nightingale with picture-in-picture. 592,000 viewers.
So they lost 13,000 people from start through the first hour. Okay.
And just for the records, we discussed it last time, so let's include it this time just for comparison. Open with the key demo 283. At the 9 o'clock hour, 274. And then finally, for the main event, which began at 9:30, quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m., which spills into the final quarter with plenty of picture-in-picture, Punk, FTR, and Ricky Starks versus Bullet Club Gold and the Guns. 9:30 to 9:45, 6:16. 9:45 to 10 p.m., 6:34. And for the key demo, 288 and 289.
So, wait a minute. I'm writing down numbers as fast. 288 and 289?
For key demo for the last 2 quarters, correct.
So, their 2-hour program started with 605,000 people and ended with 634,000, and it picked up to 616 in quarter 7. And they also picked up 6,000 people in the key demo from start to finish. So it's not the numbers that Wednesday does, but apparently for people trying to watch this program, there's nothing where they say, I've had enough. I can't take anymore. This is ridiculous. Get me the fuck out of here.
There was a big drop in the number right before the main event match. It went from 592 to 554. That was the biggest drop of the episode. But then for the main event match, it picked right back up 616, 660, or 634.
Okay, so even 554 from where they started at 605, that is not even 10% of the 50,000 of 605. It's not even 10% of the audience. At their lowest point, they had lost less than 10% of the audience.
I don't know if you would know this offhand, and it's not necessarily a perfect equation or perfect comparison maybe, but for TBS Wrestling on Saturday nights, and we looked at ratings differently then than we do now, but you were someone paying attention to different things.
Yeah.
Did the audience typically stay to the end of the episode on Saturdays?
We did not in those days. I mean, it was done, but we didn't care about the quarter hours. The first time that, especially on Saturday night, to be honest, at 6:05, they were doing numbers. I remember that time in April of 1990, the Saturday night show did a 4.0 rating of the rating measurement of the time. And Sunday night, the main event show at 6 o'clock on Sunday did a 4.4. That translated to around 3 million homes, but homes then were given a particular number of people. They weren't measuring individual viewers. And a home at that point was 1.6 viewers. Back in the fucking 60s, a home was like 3 viewers because people only had one television. So the point is, they measured the overall number of people for most of the shows, but then with the Clash of Champions, when they started being a thing in like 88, that's when we first started hearing about quarter hours, because as you'll recall, the first Clash of Champions, the highest rated Crockett television program, I think, pretty much of all time on TBS was Flair and Sting, and they got up to, what was it, a 7 point something rating for the main event? It increased over the Clash of Champions, and that was common. The main event would be the highest watched segment of the program by far.
And that was opposite WrestleMania.
But also just any time of any of the clashes, or, you know, any big shows, the main event, the last 15 minutes or 30 minutes or however long, that was usually the highest rated part of the program. It was like the same thing as a house show. You start out with the prelims and people filtered in. As long as they saw the main event, they were happy.
In a sense, I guess you could argue that, again, this is just week 2. We don't know where the numbers are going to settle at. And this past week's show that we're about to talk about was taped. It's a different energy altogether. But I guess somewhat similar to SmackDown. You know, it starts at a level. It may be a little higher because we want to see who's going to be there at the start, but it peaks at the end because it's the main event, whether it's a match or a segment. Here, you began at 6:05. Again, it began with those promos, those Saturday night's main event kind of promos with Punk, FTR, and Starks, and then the heels. So you knew Punk was there. People didn't dive off the show. They just kind of wavered around the show, and then for the main event, you got a little bit of a surge.
Yeah, and well, also, there was something on this show to run you off, but there's nothing insulting in theory. Sometimes in execution, this cake may have not risen all the way, but there was just no 20 minutes of chaos where you said, well, I've seen everything I can see, or just completely uninteresting people doing stupid shit or whatever. It's more consistent. It's a wrestling program, and you know that you're going to see some matches, but the big main event's coming up.
Plus, the commentary is a big deal.
Yes,
I think
you can actually listen to it. This is not. They're not trying to do the silly show here. They're trying to be serious, and everything didn't land on this, but they're trying to be serious. And I fear, as we'll get into it in a second, that some of the excesses of the Wednesday night program may hamper their efforts, but we'll see.